What you doing podcast? I'm DAC, and with me today for this podcast is
Jabe Stafford, the author of Ales, Agents, and Alchemy. Nice to meet ya.
yes. Anything else you want to tell us about yourself before we start?
Well, my name is Jabe Stafford. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I used to live in Madison, Wisconsin, so I'm like a Midwestern nomad. My debut novel, Ales, Agents, and Alchemy, is about an alchemist serial killer and the family of victims who can't quite prove he's using liquor alchemy to murder them one by one. And I've been writing that for about a year and a half. Other than that, I got a first degree black belt in Taekwondo also.
Oh, that's
So,
pretty cool,
heck
actually.
yeah.
But yeah, okay. Before we go on, let me introduce myself in case anybody does not know who I am. Like I said, I'm DAC. I'm currently in Hawaii working on my master's in ethnomusicology. But when I'm not doing that, I do a lot of YouTube stuff where I talk about things I'm reading, watching, sometimes things I write. I had just recently published my short story collection, so I'm pretty proud and excited for myself on that. But I'm also doing this podcasting course, and most recently I decided to shift the focus of this podcast to authors, which is why I brought Jabe on so we can talk about his book that will be coming out soon. But before we get to that book, I just want to mention I have not read it yet. I pre-ordered it already, but I'm actually really excited because this gets to be the first time talking to an author about their book that I haven't read yet. So I get to ask all these questions without knowing anything. And it's going to be a really exciting and fun thing for me to do. So, first, when and why did you start writing in general?
Oh, writing. I remember the moment when I first wanted to become a writer. I was sitting in the movie theater seeing the movie Stardust for the first
Oh,
time.
okay.
You've heard of the movie Stardust?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a cult classic, Neil Gaiman standalone fantasy novel turned into a movie. It's so fun. And I sat there in the theater, and here I was in college, not knowing what I wanted to be. I was going to UW Madison for an English lit degree, and I'm like, what can I do with this besides teach? Like, I want to be a teacher, but what else could I do? And that movie made me feel so happy, and it was so fun. I decided, you know what? I want to write stories that make people feel as good as this movie made me feel.
Cool. Oh, man, I haven't watched that movie in a while. I actually saw it while I was just looking for something to watch. I almost watched it maybe a week or so ago. Maybe not even that long ago. No, it's definitely a really great one. So yeah, it's that's I think when we talked before, what started writing about 26, something like that.
Yeah, age 26, and that's kind of it's never too late to start writing.
Oh yeah, no,
Um, it's never too late to start writing, and it became fun and an escape during a hectic college and hectic like first job, first real job lifetime. It feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, I've been writing for about what 8 years now, so it seems to be a novel every 2 years with some short stories mixed in.
no, cool. Yeah, I've mainly only written short stories so far. I've worked on a novel, but I also started writing. I started writing a novel when I started college. I didn't seriously start writing short stories until maybe I was third or fourth year of college. And it started with like a little writing contest I saw, and I was like, "Oh, I'll write a little short story for this." Story ended up being too long, so I didn't submit it anyway. But besides that, I've read like a few little short stories, like maybe only a few pages at most. Went through like what was it? Maybe once I was like a kid, I wrote another one in middle school and then another one in high school, and people loved them. And I actually would print out copies and give them to my friends whoever ever wanted them. The one I wrote in high school was really bad. Like teachers got mad because it was for an assignment, like a statewide assignment, and I did not follow it because I didn't like the assignment. And I was just like, I'm going to write this story instead. I got they couldn't do anything to me because it wasn't any required thing, but people loved it, so I shared it. But no, yeah, I don't know when or if I'll ever actually finish a novel or anything. But so yeah, I'm just sticking to my short stories. But yeah, so you mentioned Stardust as one inspiration. Any other inspirations you have for writing?
Everything Neil Gaiman, everything Victoria Schwab, and everything Brandon Sanderson. Like I love those kind of where magic has weight and magic is directly affecting the main character's life. For example, um, one of my favorite Brandon Sanderson books, the Mistborn books. Magic is commonplace. It's known and it's rare, but there are enough people using it where you have to just kind of avoid the Mistborn if you're an average guy. Like they're let them go and do their Mistborn thing, and then you follow the Mistborn and see all the fancy things they do with their metal magic and all that. Um, and that's what got me to writing Ales, Agents, and Alchemy. I wanted to write a story where just one aspect of the world we live in has become magical, and how does that change things? And that one aspect is liquor, alcohol. Um, each alcohol in the book gives you a different superpower. You have sense enhancement moonshine. You have ghost wine to speak with the dead. You've got murder bourbon, and then you've got ale that cancels all alchemy. There will be more books with more types of alchemy in the future, but starting with just those four and seeing how it affects people's lives, it really shows the strength of like taking one type of magic and drilling down into the personal, into the how does this change a college student's life? How does this change a gay ATF agent's life? How does this change a waitress's life?
Yeah, no, it's really cool because for some reason, I don't know why. I've just never seen or put together this whole like alchemy and alcohol kind of deal. It seems like something that would fit together so well, and that's why I was really excited to see a book like this. Also, I'll admit, for some reason, I don't know why. When up until right before we started this podcast, I kept thinking the name was Alice Agents Alchemy, and it wasn't until I wrote down a note for myself about the title. I was like, oh, I'm so dumb. It's L's. That makes so much sense. It's like I read the summary of the book too. And it says L's, and I was like, why was I thinking this was olives? That makes no sense. It's just a
It's
some.
the alliteration that throws you off.
I love alliteration, so yeah, I don't know. It was weird. For some reason, my my mind does this. I read a book once with there's a character named Kayla, and for some reason, the entire time in my head, I kept wanting to call the character Kyla. I was like, Kyla, Kayla. And it's like, why was I doing this? It's like it's just
Those little
thing.
those little mispronunciations, and like you read it and you're reading so fast that it kind of sneaks into your brain. I had a moment like that as a kid, playing. We used to be a gamer as a kid, big gamer, not so much anymore. But I pronounced On Guard wrong
Mm.
because in Donkey Kong Country you had the swordfish On Guard, and I never knew how to pronounce it. No one taught me. It was just printed on the page, so I pronounced it phonetically, Guarde. And it was embarrassing and just terrible. You're getting the embarrassing moments right out of me early here.
No, that's like a weird thing though. It's like if you spend a lot of your time reading, you don't like you don't get to hear the words. You only read them, unless there's something there to show you how it's supposed to be pronounced. Until you actually hear the word in real life, you're going to never know if it's right or not. And it's one of my I don't know if you ever watch How I Met Your Mother, but it's like one of my favorite shows, and that's one of the things with Ted, the main character. He's
It's so fun.
a lot of the words he says he pronounces weird because that's either he says that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, or he learned the word through reading. I was like, yeah, if kids read too much, apparently they're not going to pronounce things correctly all the time. I don't know. And then there's like the whole a kid learning how to read, uh, people telling them to sound the words out to know how to say them.
Hmm.
Well, that's not going to always help everything because English is a weird language.
It's so weird. You need a person there because you can sound it out to an empty room when no one's around. There's no one there to say, "Oh, that's not pronounced that way." And kids need that. The sounding it out thing is kind of an interactive exercise.
Yeah. Uh, it probably wasn't any better for me as a kid. I had speech problems all the time, so even if I tried sounding anything out, it's probably wrong. And maybe that's why I still mess up words, even common words now. I don't know. It's weird mind thing. But yeah, going back to like my exposure to alchemy and stories, even take taking like alchemy and alcohol, just alchemy in general. I haven't really seen that much in stories, and maybe it's because of the stuff I'm reading. But what it usually comes down to is like potions and like magical potions, at such as like in Skyrim, which I played a lot, and Elder Scrolls Range, stuff you see in games, or
Love that
like
game.
the only other story is Full Metal Alchemist, where it's like
Yep.
transmutation alchemy, and it's like I'm assuming yours is more like um, the potions kind because it makes sense. Is
Yeah, we could geek out about Full Metal all day, but
I'm
with
glad to
Ales,
hear that.
Agents, and Alchemy, the Warden is the main antagonist. His name's Lawrence Grant, and every alchemist has an alchemist title.
Oh,
Um, so he saved alchemy when it was dying during Prohibition. It was potions, and it was like animal entrails, and it was darker. It was about transforming materials into other materials, and he saw alchemy dying during Prohibition and didn't want that to happen. So he wove it into craft cubes, and each cube has a set of symbols on it, and you put that in your beer or in your wine or in your liquor
oh,
as you're distilling it, as you're brewing it, and that makes the power come out. So he saved alchemy, and he feels obligated to defend it against people who would endanger it. So the main character, Rhine, is the one who is endangering it. He's going to expose alchemy, so it's kind of morally gray. Is the warden good for protecting alchemy or bad for killing people that he assumes are going to destroy it?
huh. Oh no, that's cool. Yeah, it sounds like there's going to be this whole big system of alchemy that would be really cool to dive into. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, is there is it mainly all just I guess potion stuff? Is there this more like what am I trying to say? I guess it's more like drama. It seems like more drama, detective kind of stuff. Is there going to be like any actiony kind of stuff that's going to play with alchemy, kind of like what you see in Full Metal Alchemist?
Uh, Less fist fight action, more chase action,
Yeah.
and more intrigue kind of action. There are heist scenes where Rhine has to use the right alchemy to get and slip in under the warden's guard and steal something. And if he's caught, the only person who's going to know he's using alchemy is the big bad guy. He might get away from everyone else in the restaurant or in the pub, but the dead giveaway will be if the bad guy sees him. There is a car chase scene. There is a gunfight halfway through. Um, so there is some action to this urban fantasy thriller, but it's less fist fighty. Ryan has no time to like fight at all. He has to craft beer every 2 days. If he doesn't craft the beer alchemy every 2 days, that's the consequence. It will devour him.
Oh.
And that's how alchemy works for every alchemist. You have to be committed. You have to be a beer brewer or
Oh.
a winemaker. And if you don't continue to proliferate it, it takes revenge on you.
Hmm. Oh no, that's really cool. Oh, it's cool. Gotta have some stakes to it also. Uh,
Magic's got to have consequences, and that's part of the action. A lot of those action scenes are trying to beat that clock and brew and steal before the clock runs out.
mhm. I, saying magic has consequences, or do you know the show or the books, The Magicians?
I do. Oh my goodness.
It's my
Oh, the
favorite.
Quentin, Quentin and
Uh,
Alice. Oh my goodness, love them so much.
but yeah, what you saying that reminds me of they say a few times when there's like pain or magic comes from pain, and then there's also, especially in the books, less so the show, there's circumstances for how you use magic, and there's very
Hmm.
specific things. So yeah, just hearing that like there has to be consequences, it reminds me of that. Also, I just love to geek out about the magicians. It's my favorite books and my favorite show that I talk about all
It's
the
so
time.
fun.
Yeah, I am very obsessed with the show. I pretty much try to bring it up to anyone I talk about. But yeah, I sometimes forget alchemy is part of magic too, since it's kind of more. on the potion side, I forget potions are also kind of magic. So yeah, no, it's cool to remind myself about all this magical stuff that's going to be involved. Uh, but so yeah, is there any? I don't really know many others. What other kind of books or stories you know of that use a lot of alchemy? They can think of.
Ooh, alchemy books. Let me think. Honor Bound is one by Danielle Ancona. I might have one of those names wrong. Danielle. Again, pronunciation. That one has angels and alchemy in it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Other alchemy books. There aren't really very many.
Yeah.
The name of the wind and the wise man's fear kind of hint at it, like you kind of see it in passing, but it's not, in the middle of things.
Hmm.
And it would be really interesting to see like that close up because you were talking about Skyrim and how like alchemy is a big thing there. And I tried running an alchemist character, and it's fun and a little like I had a blast with that alchemy stuff. It's about the recipes. It's about giving yourself the powers that mixing things gives you, and seeing that in action. I think the best book that has like that atmosphere to it would be Last Call at the Nightshade Lounge. That's kind of alchemist bartenders against monsters trying to devour people in the streets.
Huh.
Um, and so they have to use certain ingredients to get to stop poison from that monster, or to be able to fight that monster and to be able to hurt it. It kind of think Monster Hunter meets like Avengers if you took the powers and put it into the bartender ingredients.
Love
So
that.
that's about as close as I could find.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, then that makes me feel less bad of not actually knowing any. But it also makes me glad that you have a book that's about it. It's another thing, another new idea. Because I mean, there's I read a lot of stuff that seems really similar to each other and doesn't really, while I'm reading it, provoke like, oh, this is something new and fresh. It's enjoyable to read, of course. So something like this, and especially something involving alcohol, is just something that I know I will enjoy anyways, and it's something new. But you said you have more plans with it. Do you know exactly how far the series is going to go?
Yes. So in writing, there's the term pantser and the term plotter.
Yep.
Uh, I'm not much of a plotter. I'm more on the pantser end, but I do have to have enough things plotted out where I can sit down on my sacred writing Sunday and say, okay, I have to get Ryan from this chapter to this chapter. How he does it is up to him. But in my Hollywood formula outline, I'll have how the chapter starts and how the chapter ends. And the way he gets there, I mean, that's up to him. Like that allows for some creativity. Um, and that's what made Rhine into like a alchemist thief type character. He breaks into several locations using alchemy to enhance his senses so he can get an advantage. And there's one time when that's out of his hands and he has to do it without. And so that came from planning just enough where I knew where he had to go, but how he got there was up to him. So I've got 3 books planned.
Okay.
The
Cool.
second one is about a quarter of the way done already, so it's going forward at a good steady pace.
Good. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to see how this turns out as a series. Now, one thing I'm very don't know how I word it. I care about a lot when I read is pacing of stuff. Um, what would you say the pacing of your books are? Or does it seem to move along pretty fast? Does it take time to like really develop each scenario that's going on? How would you describe your pacing?
My pacing is the book is 43 chapters. Most of the chapters are about maybe 10 pages long at the most.
Hmm.
The first one is a tad longer because it's 2 scenes where you have to show the alchemy and show the hook at the end of the first chapter. Um, but it raises the stakes slowly at the end of each chapter so that the pacing picks up by chapter 3 or 4, and then you're just going. The warden is going to different locations to try to get alchemy to wreck Ryan's life. Ryan has to make enough to prevent anything happening to him. He's got to meet legal deadlines. He's expected in court because the warden, being a rich CEO, a master of alchemy, he's got all the resources. So the pacing ramps up around the end of chapter 3 when he blows up a library.
Oh, okay. No, it sounds exciting. I mentioned the Magician's books before, and I love them, but the pacing of the books are so weird, and it's I still like the books, but I don't know if this is considered a spoiler for anything. If but the first book, their entire time in Breakvilles in school happens in like the first half of the book. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
in less than first half of the book, it really. I'm like, what? I expected, in my mind, I expected the whole book to at least cover their time in school. But no, it's
Yeah,
like they're through school, and then the rest of the book is kind of just this one quest. And I was like, kind of, and
they jumped south into the Antarctic at one point, and then they jumped into that other world. Yeah, it wasn't as much time at Breakbills as you would expect.
yeah, and it's just weird. Um, so yeah, pacing is a big thing for me. I don't care how fast or slow it is. I just want to be consistent, I guess, and keep me interested. But yours sounds exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Something that can really get me to jump in and just keep going. Uh, so 3 books. That's pretty good series. Is that what you originally planned, or is that kind of once you put your first one out, you're just like, okay, I think this is what's going to happen.
Well, the intriguing part about 3 books in the present day is that once I finish the third book, alchemists gain agelessness as long as they can keep up with that 2-day clock. As long as they stay brewing beer, stay making wine, they can get 140, 150 years old, and that's about how old the warden is. So I'm hoping to maybe write stories from his rise to power in during Prohibition because I love the Prohibition
Wow.
era, just all the setting and the feel and the atmosphere of anything Prohibition, like speakeasies, old bars, old taverns, rum runners having to like go out of U.S. waters, sell their alcohol there, and then come back in. Like that whole, it's a very adventurous spirit, and I want to try to get a fourth or a fifth book that are like in the past when the warden is picking off alchemists that he thinks are endangering alchemy.
Oh yeah. Oh, that sounds like an awesome idea. That would sound like a whole different exciting adventure, especially for that time. Uh, be even more danger in stakes. Yeah, so some prequel action going on. That going to be cool to look forward to. Now, one of my big questions I've been wanting to ask: you're writing a book about alcohol. Are you much of a drinker?
It depends on the month. I've been taking a little bit of time off from the drinking now. Me and my wife and I just moved. We're kind of getting, our heads around us, and I'm learning the area and all that. Um, but usually on weekends, I'll do some local Ohio beers, local Wisconsin beers. Back when I lived in Wisconsin, I was much bigger into drinking right after college, um, and kind of tapered it down. So I'd say like weekends, have a few beers during the week, no time for it.
Do you have a favorite drink that has been consistent, or is more now? I guess a drink you prefer the most now, specifically. I guess.
Oh, well, the beer I can't get anymore because they only sell it in Wisconsin. That's Spotted Cow. I don't know if you've heard of Spotted Cow beer.
I don't think so. Yeah.
There's liquor licensing issues, and I think that New Glarus Brewery makes sure that they can only sell Spotted Cow in Wisconsin. It's so flavorful, and it's even more flavorful off the tap. Like it's like fizzy liquid butter in your mouth,
Hmm.
and it's very different. And so I'd say Spotted Cow would be a favorite beer, but give me a bourbon sweet tea. Give me give me some not some local Ohio bourbon, or give me some bourbon sweet tea in here. Let's do it. That's my favorite.
Cool.
It's in the book too, so
Oh, really?
I definitely shoehorned bourbon sweet tea into the book. Yeah. Oh, better believe it.
Oh, that's sweet. So yeah, all your drinks of choice, I will say, sound really good. I mean, I probably drink anything. I'm not crazy about peach flavored stuff. Can't drink grapefruit stuff anymore because just weird times I've had with that. I like some grapefruit beers, but liquor I'm not crazy about. I don't know why. Anything really sweet. I love like sweet foods and like, candies and desserts. For some reason, sweet alcohol I'm not crazy about. Uh, yeah, no, my some of my favorites. Ever since I moved to Hawaii, I have a housemate now that loves sours, so I've been drinking a lot of sour beers.
Nice.
But lately, my drink of choice has been gin. I've been drinking a lot of just gin by itself. I'm not a huge mixed drink person anymore. Uh, but yeah, I really like sake. I just love sake. I don't know if
Oh,
that's because I'm like just otaku that I just love Japanese culture and everything. But once I had sake, I would drink it all the time.
it's so tasty. Get that warm sake. Like it's been a couple years since I had any, and yeah, totally because of anime geek. This had to try it. Um, geez, what animes have I seen that in? I'm pretty sure they had it in at least Naruto, at least Razafan, at least God. What other old animes did they have it in? Like I can't even name them all, man.
Yeah. But no, and it's really easy to get here in Hawaii. I mean, there's a big Japanese population here, so getting sake or Japanese beer like Sapporo or Kirin, it's easy. It's everywhere and stuff I didn't have before. But no, sake I just love, and none of my other friends, even the other anime nerds, they never liked sake. I was the only one of my friends that loved sake, and eventually I get carried away with it. Yeah, so now I just buy like I've been finding like these 3 liter cartons or jugs. I'll just buy them. It's like cheap sake, but it's like I'm fine with it. But yeah, so sake and gin have pretty much been what I've been drinking. Some sours, um, yeah, but also it's hot in Hawaii, so I don't heat up my sake. I just drink it room temperature or cold because even if I leave it out, if I leave it out, it will be hot. Same thing with liquor. I don't. I'm not used to refrigerating or freezing liquor, putting it in the freezer. It's just something I never did. Then I moved here, and never understood why everyone was so obsessed with putting their alcohol in the freezer. Then one day, I would take like what was it? Maybe it was gin or maybe it was like tequila or something. I took a shot of tequila in the middle of the day. It was it was so hot. It felt like it was like somebody had just like boiled it a little bit. And I was like,
Boiled tequila. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
that's what
Let's
it
make
was.
sure that doesn't catch on. Boiled tequila that can't catch on.
Yeah, no. So yeah, hot liquor I do not like. And then I finally caved, and I will at least put like my drinks on the rocks. I still don't freeze it, but I'll at least put it on some ice cubes or something. I
Yes.
let's see. Yeah, so I don't know if you can tell. I like drinking. I've somehow managed to talk about drinking in pretty much every podcast I do with anyone. So the fact that your book is about alcohol to the extent is like just gives me a big excuse to talk about it more.
Well, you,
But
you are being responsible in talking about it every podcast. That's a good responsibility. Gotta have it.
oh yeah,
Oh no,
no,
we could go to town on favorite alcohols over the years. There's some Michigan wines that are just amazing. The gin we've got right now is like it's a Scottish gin, the Botanist.
ooh,
Um,
oh,
it's very very flavorful. It's one of my wife's favorites. We do G and T's with that, and I'm hoping once things settle down here a little bit, that once Ales, Agents, and Alchemy comes out, when I get the author copies in, I can do book photos of the book with a cocktail, book with a beer, have the beer pouring mid shot, you know. And I mean, it's fun. Like Wisconsin was a drinking culture. Ohio is a big sports town. They love drinking. Ohio is a big sports town. Columbus is a big sports town. Look at me mispronouncing things.
I got what you're saying. No, I've heard Wisconsin. I've the same housemate I mentioned before. He spent some time at Madison, and he was telling me about the scenes there, which sound great. Uh, in Hawaii we get a lot of um, beers, a lot of IPAs. One is really popular here now. I don't know if that's just I happen to move and IPAs are becoming more popular everywhere, but wasn't really a big IPA guy until I moved here, and now it's everywhere, and it's mainly what I drink most of the time too, if I'm drinking beer. But yeah, a lot of the breweries that I see here um, are come from Portland or Seattle. Um, they of course have their own local breweries here, which are really good. I mean, there's Kona, which is probably yeah my favorite and probably more well known. I mean, I did my undergrad in Tennessee, and they had Kona there too. So Kona's a pretty big brand, and the brewery here is great. A lot of great choices.
Kona has that Islander ale, don't they? In like the red label bottle. I think that's one of theirs.
The red label, that's Longboard, if I remember correctly.
Longboard, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they have a lot of big ones. There's another. There was one in Tennessee. I love. It was the brand was called Calf Killer. It was a local one in Middle Tennessee. Was that the brand or the name of the beer? I think that was the brand. Yeah, and they had a lot of great ones. Really hoppy ones. So I guess that's probably where I got my IPA. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I could just keep talking about the ones I like, but it pretty much spans everything. Love stouts too. Anything dark. Uh, yeah, I could keep talking about alcohol and everything probably forever. Uh,
Well, that's one of the best parts of Ales, Agents, and Alchemy. Like the beer brewing process that a home brewer would follow is what Rhine has to follow, and that's part of making the alchemy. You see the hops, you
oh,
see the distillery vats of the wardens when he's distilling bourbon. Um, Ryan has his fermentation buckets. He has his, he's got to bottle it on camera, and he talks to the alchemy while it's happening. He needs to build a connection with it because he's a new alchemist. So you get to see the home brewing beer process, and that
oh,
was super fun to
yeah.
research and tour breweries to learn that process. Oh,
Oh, yeah. No, that sounds like an awesome research to do. I've joked about, and by joke, I actually am completely serious that um, I'm going to when if I go and do my PhD, I want to do it on like how music is involved in like drinking and like drinking songs and all this stuff and how that plays a part in culture. I thought that would be a really cool thing to do, and it just amuses me to think of like me as a PhD student writing my dissertation about drinking and music and culture.
yes.
It
Isn't that the dream though?
it
Like,
is. It seems like it would be
oh,
best, uh, but I don't know when or if that would ever happen. But yeah, the brewing process. I don't have much ideas about how alcohol is even made. I mean, I've watched shows. There was a show I just watched on Netflix about a guy. Where was it? I don't know. Some Brew Brothers. Was that what it was called? I don't know. It was an okay show. But it was pretty much just about this guy with his own brewery, and then a brother shows up to help slash kind of take charge of it. It was okay, but yeah, any kind of brewery shows I love. I mean, of course, watching shows and sitcoms. My favorite ones are like anything that involves spend most of your time in the bar, just like How Much Your Mother, Cheers,
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
yeah,
Oh my
Always
God.
Sunny in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, pretty
Hmm.
much any, and it's like so. It's become my dream to be like, what if I owned a bar? It's just always a joke with my friends. It's like we should open a bar. Uh, which has been a talk we have multiple times. Then there's also how was it? Oh, having like that uh day maybe not daily. The bar I'm always just want to spend my time at. I had a bar like that during my undergrad, like my last year. Because it was like right down the road from my apartment, so I'll spend most of my time there.
There's something about the atmosphere of your favorite bar. You know all the people who are coming in. You got the drinks. You can try any drink you want when you're there. If you're feeling adventurous, you're among good company, so you can have that adventure without anything going crazy.
Hmm.
Oh, and that's one again. that love for like alcohol and beer and like that atmosphere of the bars, that's going to come out every 3 or 4 chapters in Ales, Agents, and Alchemy. It's a Midwest bar hopping alchemy murder bourbon spree. And so there's one bar in Indianapolis that is built to be like an old English pub with cobblestones on the floor and smoke thin curtains. And it's just, the atmosphere there is a lot of fun. And then you have a speakeasy up in the Wisconsin Dells that has the really elaborate bar on the left side, and there are doors in the back that slide open, and you can go into the into the basement where people would drink when Prohibition was around, and like the atmosphere of every bar that appears in Ales, Apes, and Alchemy. There's at least 4, and that spirit, I'm hoping that it like leaves readers with that feeling of, hey, I feel like I just left the bar when I close this book for the night.
Oh, that would be a great feeling to
Yeah.
have. Yeah, I don't know. I've done quite a bit of drinking in Indianapolis. Also, one of my favorite stories from that is I spent a good 4 hours just drinking one night with re meeting with new friends. We were up there for like some convention, music convention, and we spent a lot of time there. After 4 hours, we were about to leave. Then another friend popped up and was like, "Hey, let's drink." Um, and I was going. I was at that moment going to pay, and the bartender just had no idea like where my bill went. So it was pretty much just like, yeah, what were just the last few beers you ordered? And I was like, it was just these. So I just paid for like the last two, and then the next couple I got with my next friend. And I was like, I got like a night of drinking for free. Just like cool.
Lucky.
Yeah, stuff like that is just what I really love. And I met a lot of people and talk that I talk to in bars, and it's just cool. And like I never see them again, but I'm I don't think I'm a very outgoing person, but for some reason, being at a bar, just chilling, uh, whoever's near me, I just end up having a conversation with.
There's like a psychology around that. It's the same psychology. I don't know the term because I didn't study psychology, but it's the same atmosphere you get when you go to a concert or you go to a convention or you go to a bar. Everyone's there to get the experience of being there. It's not about power. It's not about ranking. It's not about what your job is. It's about just let's let our guard down and enjoy this experience. Like at a concert, you don't know if there's a CEO next to you. You don't know if there's a director or a football player, or there could be people in your family there that hey, it's cool seeing you, cuz I haven't seen you in like 6 months. Let's chill. Let's listen to the music. Bar atmosphere is just like that. There's a psychology to it, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. I also like to write when I've been in bars, where it's like dead, and it's just a chill place to go. Sometimes. How much did you write much while drinking? Is that I know for me, I kind of have this mentality of like write drunk, edit sober. Is anything similar
You're
to
the Hemingway mind.
you? Yeah.
Yes. For the most part, that's how I do it too. Just enough where you like let the guard down and you feel relaxed and you feel happy writing. Um, and so I've been writing for 8 years, and like the fear of like, oh, what I put down on the page is going to suck has kind of gone away a little bit because I've been doing
Yeah.
it for 8 years. I have short stories published. This is my debut novel coming out, but I used to drink to get that fear out of the way, and then you're feeling happy and you're feeling fun, and the creativity flows once you're not worried about that. Once you're more worried about the magic or about the sci-fi, or then it's fun. So yeah, definitely drinking while writing.
Yeah. Yeah. That.
Let's think.
There.
Uh, Drinking while writing happened for at least half of this novel, and you will probably be able to tell the scenes when there was a beer or three involved. Because Ryan will say super snarky, like almost, terrible things. Like he speaks assholese fluently in the book. There's also movie quotes sprinkled
Oh,
throughout the book there.
neat.
And I'm hoping to make that like part of Twitter, like once every week, say, hey, there's a quote from this movie, see if you can find it. Um, so as you're reading, turn your movie brain on and see if you can
Um,
find any movie or anime references in there.
Oh, I might be able to catch anime references. I don't think I watch. I feel like I miss a lot of the really famous or popular movies. For some reason, I feel like I watched a lot of movies growing up. Less so as an adult. I tend to watch more series and a lot more anime than I do movies. So I might catch some movie references. We'll see. But that is a fun thing to do. It's always fun to see when a character kind of has these like throws these references out. But yeah, if there's
Yeah.
anime ones, those would be really cool to see. No, yeah, I'll be definitely following you on that if you put stuff like that up. Uh, yeah. So, yeah, we talked a lot about L's Agents and Alchemy, but you just mentioned you have some short stories. What other kind of stuff do you write?
Well, I write science fiction and fantasy, like contemporary fantasy mostly. The most recent story that I got published was called "The Fiend in the Frame," and that's kind of like if Neil Gaiman met like Kevin Hearn type of urban fantasy. It's about a yoga witch and the negativity demons she has to face after she relaxes her entire class with her yoga magic. So people who are very high tension, important people, you get politicians, you get, sports coaches coming in and taking her yoga classes, and she's better than the rest. She's a yoga witch, but she also has to siphon that negativity into something. Otherwise, it becomes a monster. And there's one time when a monster breaks loose and she has to fight it right after the class and hope that it doesn't make enough noise to let everyone know she's actually a yoga witch.
Hmm, interesting. Okay, cool.
Let's think. Aside from that one, I've got the prequel to that story coming out in about a month from Four Star Stories. And yes, her great great grandmother was a yoga witch as well. They had those back in the 1700s. Yes. Um,
Okay.
I also write science fiction. There's currently a Robot Bee novel that I have submitted to the Green Stories writing competition in the UK. And that is about an AI scientist and his robot bees, which become the ransom price when an ex Marine kidnaps his son.
Okay.
So that one's more fast paced. That one's like Michael Bay meets like a fist fighting. He uses the robots in fist fighting. So it's kind of like if you
Ah,
got Rocky combined with Michael Bay, but with AI in it.
ah. There's an anime called Megalobox. Yeah.
I've heard of
That,
that one, yeah.
yeah, that was a pretty good one. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Um, I don't know how much you know about it, but it's like they have these robotic skeletons attached to them, like
Hmm.
usually from the waist up or something, that fight for him, and then the main character is just a regular person without that stuff. I don't know much about the story you just said, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. Um, so yeah, no, that stuff's cool. I really like that anime. So a story like that seems like something I would really like too. Yeah. Um, any other kind of story or genre that you haven't written in before that you think would be cool to, experiment with or try something in?
Yeah. I've kind of been a big horror fan recently. My wife is big into horror movies, and I wasn't really that big into horror until she introduced me to the good ones because all the bad ones are what I was exposed to as a kid. So I stopped caring. I'm like, if these characters are going to be this stupid, they deserve to die, and it's not scary and it's not psychological, so I don't care. But getting the good ones in there, getting the good horror books in there, there's some fun you could have by just making a monster that does one thing, or just making a serial killer who only does certain things, and that can get in your head. And so I want to kind of try to go from Ales, Agents, and Alchemy into like writing some horror short stories.
Oh yeah.
Um, and there's one I'm thinking about writing. Don't have a name for it yet, but it's about a climbing gym owner,
No.
and he goes into caves and he does like cliff
Oh.
climbing and then goes down into caves too, and he finds a monster down there, and the things the monster demands of him and the people that have been into that cave like are kind of psychological. So like I'm going to explore that angle in the next few weeks here.
Yeah, I like horror that is much more psychological than just jump scares. Like For me, no matter if something's scary or not, if it's a jump scare, I'm probably going to jump at it because I'm just a very jittery, shaky person that's easy to get caught off guard. But yeah, no, the like what I think of as true horror is the like psychological stuff that really gets to you and can bother you a little bit, like
Yeah.
slasher movies, big monster movies. I've talked before about it, but like they're not really scary anymore. They're more like they have some suspense, but like big monster movies are actiony. Slasher movies are just gory, but it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
you know what it is. So stuff, paranormal stuff, I think is neat because it pretty much all is entirely the psychological stuff. I mean, you have
Yeah.
paranormal activity. Like that first movie, pretty much nothing happens in it, but people were terrified of it because of that, because they thought something was going to happen. I mean, stuff happens, but to me, it was
It
like,
got in their heads. It
yeah,
got in their heads, and people remember what stories make them feel. The reason we're anime fans is because of how those types of stories make us feel. We love the moments they provide. Horror is just the same. We like being led on by a good guy who turns into a bad guy. We like the psychology of how would I react if I had to face this monster or if this person got into my head. I don't have people in my life who are psychologically screwing with me, but this villain is. Like, it's those moments that make you feel that way that stick with you.
yeah, I know. I love horror. My whole family does for some reason. I don't know. Maybe we're weird, but yeah. Even like I guess as far as background, I remember it's like my grandma. We would always watch horror movies with her. When I'm together with my brothers, we would watch horror movies together. Even my mom. And then none of my friends like horror movies. I don't know how I pick my friends, but apparently none of them like soccer and none of them like horror movies. But and some of them like
uh,
zombie movies, but zombies aren't really horror anymore either. They become so mainstream. But
yeah.
I just love zombies in general. But yeah, I've been wanting to write more horror stuff. I definitely, besides the zombie novel I started like 8 years ago and haven't touched in almost that long either. I've written some stuff I think as dark, kind of darker than normal. But yeah, I need to get more into that kind of horror mindset because it is my favorite genre. So I should get more into that. Just curious though, what was considered the bad movies you saw compared
Oh, well, I couldn't really get into any of the Exorcist ones because you could predict the tropes as they happened. Um, as a kid, like the Scream and the I Know What You Did Last Summer, like I liked the atmosphere that they were going for, but it was as a sci-fi fantasy guy, I would do things differently in that horror movie, and when those characters didn't do them, they didn't face the bad guy right away, they didn't make the logical choice. I'm like, it's not believable, and so I wasn't scared by it. um, but one of my favorite horror movies is The Babadook.
Babadook? Yes, I love the Babadook.
Yeah. And it's not a flashy movie. It's not a gory movie. It's the stakes are slowly raised by the Babadook monster itself, and it's not done in a cheesy way. The mom tries to get normal life things going, and they're wrecked and ruined by the Babadook. And it's scary enough to scare you because you want the mother to have that release, to have that relief. You want the family to be okay, and then it shows up and they're not, and you're scared because you wanted that, and the Babadook took that away from you, just like it took it away from the mom.
Like I thought Babadook was a great horror movie, but I also thought it was funny, not because of the movie itself, kind of because of the movie itself, but also because I watched it before like anyone else seemed to really know it existed, and before the memes came out of the kid, and I don't know if you've seen that, but uh, I got my roommate to watch it with me, and who doesn't like horror movies, but he watched it, and then he hated the Babadook and the noise it would make. So I would take his Bluetooth speaker when he was in his room, I would connect to it, and whenever I knew whatever he was doing and he was in there at night, I would just play the Babadook scream, and it was great. So
Yes.
yeah, no, I love the Babadook. It's a great movie. But yeah,
You're a devious mind, sir.
I just I like doing things that amuse myself, even if it messes with my friends. But oh well. Yeah, no, my favorite horror movie is Sinister. It's something I watch.
Sinister. Oh,
You know it?
I gotta rewatch that with Megan. We haven't seen that one in a long time.
Oh yeah. It's just it gets me because kids are creepy. But and it's just I think it's a well made movie and I like the story and everything it does in it. But for some reason, especially the second one, people just don't seem to really care much for it, which I don't get because I thought it was great. Um, but yeah, no, horror is great. People should get more into it. It would be cool to see a horror story you would write. It would be interesting to know what comes from that. But yeah, no, that's pretty much covers everything I was planning to talk about. Before we go though, is there any of your social media you want to plug?
Oh heck yeah! So I'm kind of known as the positivity man on Twitter. My Twitter tag is Oculus Writer, and so is my Instagram. You can find me as Oculus Writer on Twitter and Instagram. So yes, I do the cliche thing of sharing cute cat or cute bear videos once in a while, but most of it is inspirational writing stuff, cool stories. I'll share my own blogs on there. You'll get announcements for Ales, Agents, and Alchemy and any book related announcements on there. And my unboxing video will be on there in a few weeks. So again, Oculus Writer on Twitter and Instagram. And on Facebook, it's just Jabe Stafford Writer. That's Jabe, not Jade like the stone. Jabe like Gabe with a J instead of a G.
Cool. And your book comes out on October 22nd, right?
October 22nd, I believe that's a Tuesday.
Cool. Yep. Looking forward to it. Like I said, I already
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking to it. Yeah. Let me plug my socials real quick in case anybody wants to find me there too. You can find my YouTube, DAC Stories, Twitter, and Facebook. It's DAC Stories, all one word. And then my Instagram is D_AC_stories because for some reason somebody beat me to that one on there and it has to be a little different. Bugs me too, I know. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me on this. It's been really cool talking to you. How even more excited to read your book when it comes out.
Yeah, thanks a million for having me on. It's the moments in the geeking that that bring me to writing. And come read the book. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah. So you heard him. Read the book, follow his socials. But let me thank everyone. Oh shit. Let me thank everyone for listening. I'm getting a little excited still. And yeah, I'm DAC and bye.
Until next time.